Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Health meeting for the town of East Long Meadow. Today is November 21st, 2024. And the Board of Health is recording. Is anyone else recording? All right. And tonight we are holding this meeting via Zoom webinar pursuant to Governor Baker, former Governor Baker's executive orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law back in March 2020. So with that, we're going to call the meeting to order. And the first thing on our agenda here tonight is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. So did everybody get a chance to take a glance at those minutes? This is from the meeting back on September 4th. Okay. We need a motion to approve those minutes.
A motion.
Okay, and I can second. Oh, sorry, Rebecca.
Okay, that's okay.
So roll call vote, Christine Johnston, aye. Dr. Katie Dobbins?
Aye.
And Rebecca Torsha?
Aye.
All right, so the minutes from September 4th are approved as written. That is fantastic. And Tammy, is anybody here for public comment?
I am guessing that the thing that says attendees 0 must be nobody.
There is no one else here besides the panelists.
There's just us.
Okie dokie. Well, then we are going to take that as nobody is here for public comment. So we will move on in the agenda. And I want to welcome our guest this evening, Lisa Stevens. Good night. And Lisa, we're going to let you introduce yourself, and we're going to start out with our discussion about the sample regulation for sale of tobacco and vape products. So Lisa, the floor is yours.
Ms. Stevens, good night. I'm the Director of Tobacco Control with the Massachusetts Municipal Association, and I provide technical legal assistance to the cities and towns of Massachusetts on tobacco control and enforcement questions. And I help draft the model regulations that you guys are looking at. So I know a little bit about them. And I'm happy to answer any questions or kind of go over any specific policies that you guys are interested in or may want to talk about.
I think probably first up, if there's anything that sticks out to you in this model from previous ones, it would be nice to look over. And then some of the other things we were looking to see if you could maybe touch on would be a tobacco-free generation, nicotine pouches, and maybe we can talk a little bit about flavor enhancers because Alex found a really interesting one this week.
Okay, well, I always like to hear about a new product. So Alex, I'm waiting to hear what you found. So I guess the two things that would stand out to me are nicotine-free generation and the oral nicotine pouches. Those are kind of the two biggest things we're seeing right now. The nicotine-free generation, I'll start with. So that comes out of Brookline. It is a new policy. It's what's considered kind of an end game or no more tobacco use policy. And what it does is it says that for people born after a certain date, they can never purchase tobacco products or nicotine products in your town, but people born before are always able to purchase the products that are legally available. And the way that I like to kind of explain it is that there's nothing that it won't impact my ability to purchase nicotine products for the rest of my life. I can purchase what I want. But my 4-year-old daughter would never be able to purchase cigarettes or nicotine pouches or vapes in her life. And that's kind of how it works. And so that's the policy. It comes out of Brookline. It's a relatively new policy. There's a lot of excitement around it. I think there's a lot of potential. We don't have a ton of data on it right now, but we are seeing more and more towns adopt it. And as we get more and more towns adopting it and kind of as it's been in place in more towns, cities and towns, we'll get a kind of the evidence basis that we have, but we're seeing really good results. The other thing is kind of when you get some of the pushback on it is that it infringes on people's rights. And the case in Brookline, they challenged it all the way up to the SJC, the Supreme Judicial Court, which is the highest court in Massachusetts. And they said that the town had the right to enact it. So it doesn't legally infringe on people's rights. And it is legally allowed. So that was kind of also what opened the floodgates of towns considering it. Brookline, it kind of came out of Brookline. Brookline took on the role of being able to defend it all the way up to the SJC and make sure that the towns, cities and towns are allowed to enact this policy. So now that we know that it's legally allowed, you can, and I see a question already, and I'm happy to answer that.
Okay, sorry, I'm a physician, so I'm very excited to hear that this is actually happening. How do we get more information about how other towns can do this?
So we have the language in there, but I don't know which model you had, because we were putting the language in there so we knew the towns wouldn't get sued. So let me see. But if you have the
I was trying
2014
to
sales
find that
regs,
right. I was trying to search it in ours. Which page is it on, Tammy?
so it's actually in a bunch of places is the thing. It has the person born on or after January 1st, 2020 or 24. No, not 2024, 2004. That is that language. So making the change from 21 to that is what would do that. And yeah, I mean, it is an exciting thing. It has really strong potential. My understanding is that while it is very new, this idea of kind of a phased in prohibition is not new. It was done in a couple of European countries back in the 20s to phase out opioid use, like early painkiller use. So it wasn't kind of created out of whole cloth. And then, as I said, it has the potential for being a really positive long term. And one of the things that the advocates for it say that they hope is that most youth tobacco use actually is kind of twofold. Like they're purchased by an older sibling. It's actually a lot of it is legal purchasing, and kind of as people get older, the people who are able to purchase for like youth are getting farther and farther away from those kids in terms of age. So suddenly it'll be a parent that would be able to purchase, as opposed like I am much less likely to buy cigarettes for my daughter than I would have to buy them for my sister when I was 18. So that's kind of the other benefit that they see in it. As I said, it's a very exciting but very new policy. If you do choose to adopt it, the other heads up I will give you is that you tend to get there's a lot of momentum on both sides around this. So if you choose to adopt it, expect a very robust public hearing around it. Which is both it's a big policy, so it's a good thing, but that's something you should expect.
And is there any resolutions or policy work being done at the state level around this as well too, just to see where that's headed?
I believe so. There's something at the State House actually tomorrow for it, but there isn't anything like currently proposed. Just kind of there's discussion about it, especially among like the top state advocates for tobacco control.
And I'm sure the tobacco lobbyists on the other side are being very vocal as well too. Okay.
Yeah, they're as I said, if you have a public hearing, you should just expect a very robust conversation around it. And there's a lot of passion on both sides. So, and they adopted it actually in New Zealand as like a whole country, and before it even got implemented, there was enough pushback that they repealed it. So when we talk about the industry like really showing up, this is not this is a policy that they, hopefully for good reason, see a lot of concern in, because it's going to really, really cut into their market.
Lisa, I had a question. If you knew how it was being enforced in the communities that have already implemented it.
That's a great question, especially because of the fining structure. So there's only one community right now that has it in place. The rest will come on. The rest of it'll be in place on January 1st of 2025. So Brookline is the only town that has it right now. And my understanding is that they fine $1,000 for sale to someone under 21 right now, and then $100 for sale to someone over 21 but under the age, which is, again, it's a very small portion of people right now. We're kind of looking at the law to see if what the kind of options are to just because for enforcement purposes, it's very confusing for people doing the enforcing to have to kind of do those different age findings. So I've been talking to people from Brookline, and we'll be kind of touching base with them again, hopefully tomorrow, to just get a better idea of how they're doing the enforcement. And then there's a very again, robust working group that's working on this that can come and talk a lot more about the enforcement, and people from Brookline will be able to come if you guys choose to adopt this. They will be able to come and talk to you about the enforcement and how to do it correctly and how to do it effectively.
So
Maybe-
just so I understand, this is the draft that we're reviewing, and then if we choose to adopt it, then we go to a public hearing around this thing.
If that's something we elected that we wanted to do, is the language in the draft about the date of birth, like, that's up to us, right? That, because depending on when we did it, we could actually, like, does that make sense? Like, people born in 2004 are approaching 21st birthday. So if it
So
was like a year from now, we would have to update that date, correct?
No, so once you set it, it would stay at that date going forward. So it would just be at that date forever. So those people would never be able to purchase, and anybody born after that. So 2004, people born in 2005, 2006, they would be prohibited. The big like so the one of the big things is that you don't want to kind of take something away, so people that are already able to purchase. So that's what so you could kind of go, you could go further. So you could say like 2006, but we wouldn't recommend going 2002 because you wouldn't want to take away, because the court case in Brookline really focused on the fact that nothing was taken away from people. And so that it would open you up to something that we don't know. It's likely that it would also be upheld, but we just don't know. And I don't like to put towns in a situation where they are potentially going to get sued. As I said, and the industry is very unhappy about this policy. to put it
Yeah, that was my
mildly.
question. Like, because if obviously we wouldn't be implementing this if we elected to do it just with timeline, right? It's already end of 2024, it would be 2025. And so folks born January 1st, 2024, literally will be 21 by that time. So we would have to push that date out. And that, you just answered
Yes.
the
Yeah,
question.
so we,
on that.
that's
Yeah,
what I was
yeah.
gonna say. So we should have ours be updated to say 2005. Because we would
Yes.
be able to have enough time for a hearing before the end of the year. Because how many days do we have to do that? It's
Oh,
like
are
a
we that
30-day notice, right?
Are we that far into the year? I didn't even, you guys are the first ones to bring that up, but that's a very good point. I'm not like
Because we have to give
the year
30-day
to fit,
notice,
yeah.
right, Tammy?
Is it 30 or is it 14? 30.
Yeah, well, and at any rate, like, we have to do a public hearing, and then we have to like publicize that we're gonna do a vote, and there's no way we'd get that done before the end of 2004. And so we'd want also, or 2024. I don't know. It's been a long day. And so
I
I'm just
hear
thinking like, but then you have a whole year before the next round of folks. So we could certainly do that, like born January 1, 2005. Because we would have plenty of time for the review and public hearing and implementation.
Yeah, that's what I would probably say we should do too. So we would have to amend the document first.
And I mean, this is not a final anyway, like we have our a la carte that we would go through, and I would say that, maybe we can look through in our next couple meetings and see which parts on here we want to adopt. There's definitely, we definitely need to do at a minimum some cleanup of the previous model, because there was a few things that were like copied like in duplicate in our last one that we had a bunch of eyes on it and none of us noticed it. Not that duplication of the policy is that wrong, but it'd be nice to get some of that out. And there's a couple other things in here that I think we wanted clarifying in just after all of the issues we had last year. So at a minimum, even if we take some time, to decide, I think that at a minimum we should work on fixing some of the language and some of the other things in here at maybe at the beginning of this upcoming year. And because one of
Like
the
we could have presented it as like a whole thing, but you don't have to adopt it. You can adopt like a single policy at a time. It's not as if you have to like re-adopt the whole regulation if you want to make that change or adopt that policy.
like I know there is changes to the language of the definition of a good faith sale in here, right, Lisa?
Sorry, can you say that again?
The definition for a good faith sale, or what do we call it?
Yeah, there's some changes and that just kind of changes to clarify for boards so they kind of know what they're looking for. And there's a sale of business.
I think we were the board that probably bugged you a lot about what that definition was.
It wasn't just you guys. If it makes you feel better, it wasn't just East Long Meadow that had this problem. There was a number of towns where we were like, what does it mean to be a real sale? And so that's actually why we included it. It wasn't.
Um, it's very, very interesting because, you know, it's been how many months since we've taken away those licenses, and it's been moderately quiet, except for a few things that Alex has seen recently.
You never say the Q word. Don't do it.
No, it's a different sort of issues, I guess, lately. Which, knock on wood, let's not have anybody selling to minors. That makes me happy. We had some busy months last year, or this year. Last year? Yeah, last year. So nice, at least for now.
And then the other thing you guys want to talk about was the oral nicotine pouches, which is kind of the newest growing product on the market that we are seeing. It's one that I have a lot of concern over. My predecessor, DJ, who worked for the M&A in this role before me, kind of like flagged it as one of his products of concern. So what they are, if you haven't seen them, they're little pouches. They're about this big. They come in a container that looks like a Certs container, and you put them right in between your lip and gum, and they deliver nicotine. The most popular brand is Zyn and On. They come in 3, 6, and 9 milligram pouches, but we've seen them up to like 25 and 30 milligram pouches, which is a really high nicotine content for a very quick delivery. They're taking up more and more space. The industry is investing a ton of money in them. There's a lot of like 2-for-1 deals, there's a rewards program, and they're really trying to get people to try these. They're marketing them as a reduced risk product. They won't say it's a cessation product or it's a safe product, but it's a reduced risk product compared to combustibles. Given the market growth, it's unlikely that it's just current nicotine users that are using them. It seems like there's a lot of new adoption initiation in these products. And also, again, we just don't know the safety around the nicotine salts is what's in it. It's not tobacco, it's nicotine salts. It's kind of a dry version. So we don't have a ton of data. The nice thing for boards of health is you don't have to wait till you find out it's a crisis. You can kind of say like, let's wait for this, like let's kind of put some limitations on the sale of these until we know more, until we know that they're safe or not as dangerous. I think probably in the version you have, there's just that we would limit them to adult only stores. If you don't have any adult only stores, that's obviously not the best option for everybody. I can also send you language. It's just in a new draft that we haven't actually put out yet that limits them to a certain amount that can be sold, like milligrams that can be sold. So that was, and if I'll be completely honest, the town that requested this, we drafted this language for a specific town. The town that requested it had a retailer in the audience at the time. They said the highest that they sell is 9, so we just set it at 9, which seems a little bit arbitrary, but it's somewhere between 3 and 30. You want to put a limit on there, and that was the one that was kind of proposed at the time from the public feedback that we got. But comparing them to like nicotine gum, which is the approved cessation device, that comes in 2 and 4 milligram amounts. So, somewhere in that, like under, 10, that seems reasonable. There's some data on it that we're looking into from the CDC that does really look at the amounts of nicotine that are safe, or not safe, but that, are less problematic. I'm not quite sure about. I'm not the science person, so I don't know all of this stuff. But
I mean, if you think
guys
about it
can
too,
limit it.
well, and that's the delivery mechanism for a lozenge or even like gum. The
Mhm.
gum, you have to chew it and then pocket it in order for it to release, and the lozenge is a slow release as well too. Whereas the pouch, it's a much faster delivery system because it goes right into the buccal mucosa, and it actually and then it's a chemical nicotine too. So it still will have the same effects as you will see with like increasing heart rate and increasing blood pressure that any nicotine product does. So children, adolescents, and anyone who's pregnant, you should definitely not be using it. And so I think we don't know, like you said, all the side effects yet, but it's still a nicotine product and there is no safe nicotine at any level. But I always counsel my patients when I'm starting them on nicotine lozenges or gum to recognize you should not be like just doing them back to back, but they're a smaller
Mhm.
milligram doses versus where, like you said, the pouch can go up to a much higher delivery milligram.
And they come in these like, they come in packs, I think it's 15 or 20. Again, they look like, so it's the other thing that I think is really concerning is that, so we're seeing that they're kind of disappearing off of shelves. There's social media evidence that kids are using them. We're not getting a ton of reports from parents that kids are using them. And I think that's because they're very easy. It's very easy to hide usage. It's not even like vaping is pretty easy to hide, but this is even harder because unless parents know to look for them, it just looks like a mint container. So there's also that thing of like, it's once they're kind of in kids, young people's hands, it's really hard to realize if a kid has a problem. So we really just want to keep them out of people's hands right now.
Well, and they're
Um,
flavored and they don't have the like when people do like chewing tobacco, like there's a different odor to it. Whereas these are just like, they smell like mint, so like a patient
Yeah.
showed me them and I was like, because they were trying to like decrease their intake of cigarettes. And I was like, what? I wouldn't even have known they had them in because it doesn't have like an odor when they put it other than like a minty fresh smell.
They are super
Yeah, and then-
popular with the college students. We run that weird like split between legal and illegal in terms of age on all substances. But they are probably the product of choice, honestly, at this point, even moving away from vaping. Just among my students at least.
And I was
Yeah, we hear a lot of reports that they're very popular, especially like the kind of people like, oh, they help me concentrate, kind of the normal things you hear from students around this stuff. So apparently they're very popular around like med students and law students as well, because they're very, you can like, you don't have to go outside. You can just, people don't know you're doing it.
The
You get a little
stimulant,
People
Heidi, the stimulant.
People
But
should know
I-
better.
I just looked up the data because I was talking about this with somebody else. So in middle school and high school students in a 2024 report, the percentage was 1.8% are already using it. That's really high.
And we do know that there's been a 600% increase in the last 2 years of use of them. So it has been incredibly rapid. And part of that is that I think it was so it's a Swedish company, but in 2017 it got bought by either Philip Morris or RJ, one of the big tobacco companies. Then they started manufacturing in Georgia. So they've had a lot more US manufacturing. So there's been a much bigger kind of advertising push and things like that in the last couple years. It didn't kind of come out of nowhere and people just discovered it. There was like a shift in the industry.
Well, it says in 2022, 808 million pouches had been sold in the US.
I mean, there are places that can't keep them on the shelves, like the 7-Eleven around the corner from my office. Like I'll go in there to get like a Diet Coke or something, and then people will be there being like, I can't find these anywhere. Do you have them? So, and we like that's not just people who already use nicotine that are purchasing it at that level. That's because they can keep cigarettes on the shelves. So, and yeah, so that's the biggest one that we're seeing. As I said, I mean, if you have adult only stores, one recommendation is to put them into adult only stores because that is just another layer of protection from young people accessing them because they're supposed to ID at the door, unless you feel your adult only stores are not the place that they should be. There are some towns where they're like, we've got 1 or 2, but they have so many violations. We don't think that would be a good choice. And then also, again, you could limit the amount of nicotine in them. So you can say that only, 3, 6, 9. Again, that's what Zyn comes in. Zyn's the most popular. I think is 3 and 6. So that's another way you can do it, which just reduces the access to those really, really high nicotine content ones that are super concerning.
Well, the crazy thing is 1 cigarette is 1 milligram. Like when I think about when I'm prescribing nicotine patches, a 21 patches for the whole day for a whole box. And if it's 6 milligrams in one little thing, that's over a quarter of a pack of cigarette bump you're getting in one hit.
Yeah, it's like kind of a crazy, when you really compare it to other products, it's a crazy amount of nicotine in them.
So where is that line to? I'm trying to find it on the document.
So that one's not in there because we just wrote it last week.
Oh, okay.
But I
But
can
if
send
you-
it to you guys, and it just says basically the same thing, but it just says that you will not sell nicotine over the nicotine pouches are limited to, or you can't sell anything over 6 milligrams or 9 milligrams, depending on what you choose.
I would vote 6. As a medical professional, I would not recommend 9.
In adult only
An
establishment.
adult old, and how many adult only establishments do we have? Just the one, because the other one we closed, right?
No, they were. Saints was an adult only, right, Alex?
No,
No, so we only have the
because they're
one.
like a convenience
Colors
stores.
are
Just
only-
one, just blue collar so far.
And you had said that you don't even think that they sell them there.
Yeah, that's right.
But they would have the option to. I think that's the thing. Like some towns don't have any adult only stores, which means you're effectively banning them from the town. And there are people that are trying to use them right now as an alternative to combustibles. So, you know, an outright ban is may not be what sometimes it's a new product. So I don't like with some of these products, I'm like, this is exactly how you do it. And this one's, we're learning, but I think we could most health experts can agree that anything really above a certain amount shouldn't be sold to people.
Has the nicotine pouch, has that been challenged by anybody in communities where it's passed?
So we've had industry people show up to kind of talk about it. Their strong segment it's been in towns where they don't have any adult only stores, so it'd be an effective ban. And so that was their argument. I mean, I can't guarantee that there wouldn't be a legal challenge, but the ground for prohibiting a product is pretty strong by a board of health, especially a nicotine product. So they wouldn't have like very, very strong grounds to challenge that, because the truth is, like, you guys are allowed to enact reasonable health regulations, and it's very reasonable to say that you want to restrict or limit the purchase of these products when we know that there's very good evidence about nicotine use and the health impacts.
Are there many Western Mass communities that have already enacted it?
So there's 3 or 4 that have it on their agenda to enact. The language is very new. So there's a couple that are in Central Mass and on the East. And you guys are kind of all updating. I was like Belchertown, I was in Ludlow on Tuesday. They are very strongly considering adopting something like this. So there's a lot of towns that are in the process of it. But just, they have to go through the public hearing and things like that. Just kind of the pace of the process.
Could we do all that at the same public hearing? So if we do the age change and this, could it be the same hearing, or does it have to be 2 separate hearings?
No,
It can be the same hearing.
I was gonna say the hearing is about the updated regulations, so any
Okay, so
changes
it's all
we
of
need
it.
to make, whether it's the language changes like Tammy's recommending, or it would be the whole thing. Right, and it just for Katie and for Rebecca, like the model, some of the stuff in here we already have, and just this language that needs to be cleaned up, right? Like the reducing cap and stuff like that, like it's just language that we might need to clean.
Yeah, there's some funny things in there. Like we had the EPIs go in and update some of the whereas clauses too. So those are probably like to make, because some of the data was from like 2001, 2004. So there's some like more up to date data and things like that too.
So Tammy, correct me if I am wrong in this, is that we should take another meeting as the board to review and go through the language and then make our changes in the model, and we'll get the updated language from Lisa about the pouches so that we have that. So we would take a meeting to do that, and then that gets disseminated and we say like, this is what is going to go for public hearing. We schedule out the public hearing. Do we vote in the same meeting as the public hearing?
Yeah.
Tammy? Yeah, okay.
You can, yeah.
So it's at least a couple more meetings. And time for
Yeah,
us to go, potentially even 3. Like we might want to read it, do some work on it, and then come back, review it, make sure those are all the edits and changes that we want, and then do public hearing. So we'd be looking at public hearing probably in like late winter, early spring.
And going kind of, in a way, kind of going line by line. sort of, or as, first down the a la carte and then kind of looking through and seeing where it differs from our old regulation and see where we'd want to change that. And I know that's the holidays, so extra homework doesn't sound like clamoring. And then don't worry, after this, I've got plans for updating some other regulations too.
I want to hear what Alex heard, what Alex found.
You know what, Alex, you sent me the picture, but I realized I am not on my I'm not on my laptop. This is Jamie's, so I don't have the picture. But it is called OCB Flavor Card, menthol flavor. It changes the flavor. It's like have you heard of these, Lisa? It's like
I have
okay.
heard of them.
It just reminds me of like an air freshener or a softener sheet, like a fabric softener sheet that you put in.
It sounds like those room smelling enhancer things where you slide in a filter and it changes the smell of your room, but it's only for cigarettes.
That's what the picture looks like.
Actually, I just looked it up. Oh God.
Yeah, this is kind of why the flavor enhancer language was written, actually. It was because of products like this that are like designed to allow people to kind of get around the flavor enhancer, like the flavor ban, which is that like it's what I'm thinking it is. I don't know if I've seen this particular brand, but it's like they slip kind of in the back of the package. It kind of looks like a credit card almost. It slips in the back of the package and it like is supposed to add the menthol flavor to the cigarettes.
So, I mean, yes, it's not doing it by a liquid or a solid. It's doing it through aroma, which is still scientifically infusing it. So we're good to go. That is in fact a flavor enhancer.
That is like the flavor. That is like what it was. The language was written to target those particular. I mean, I want to say that, but like, yes, that is the kind of the thing that was in everybody's mind when the flavor enhancer language was written, was like those. There's also like kind of like tubes. So you would like take out one cigarette and then you would put in a tube that goes in the same spot that does the same thing. There's a couple of those. We're also seeing with the pouches, because they're not supposed to be flavored, even though it does seem like some of them are. We're seeing that they'll sell like the pouches and then next to them they'll sell like flavor pouches. And that's like a little bit harder to say that that's not a flavor enhancer, because like someone could just use it on their own. But they're being like kind of sold next to each other as like a way to like, yeah, so you would put like a pouch, like the pouch and then like both pouches in your mouth at the same time to add the flavor.
That's interesting. There was no question to me when she showed it to me that it says changes the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just completely goes against the whole reason why that's put in there. But I thought,
yeah, so you're good. That's what it's that's what the product that was. We actually don't see them that much anymore, but I think because there's language specifically banning them, but they do pop up from time to time. They're like the drops and stuff. There's like all kinds of weird chemically products people can put into their stuff to try to get around the flavor ban, which I think shows just how important it is to have a flavor ban. Just to get on my soapbox for a second, like there's a reason that they add flavors to these. It's because they're not very pleasant on their own, these products. Like the flavor makes them easier to use.
And more appealing to kids.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any other areas in the model regulations that anyone wanted a little bit more clarity? Or is there anything else, Lisa, that you think stands out that we should know about?
I mean, the other big thing is density, but it sounds like you guys have a reducing cap. So that's something you're already aware of and working on. And so that's great. And yeah, those are density is the other big kind of policy area that we like to talk about.
I was just watching a video on how to use the OCB things because I'd never heard of those before ever. And the guy was like, you put one in the front and one on the back, and then it infuses into all of the cigarettes.
I wonder how
things that people are
strong it
coming
is.
up with.
Is
Yeah, and
there,
like the energy when they could just stop using the products that are going to kill them, but again, can't make
oh,
people be healthy.
You want to
Lots
come to me? Come work with me? We can. You can walk around and talk with me while I see patients.
is there any new language on the reducing cap that,
No.
like, so one of the things that really has been driving me nuts is uh, renewal season. And and the way that we have it our regulation written is that after 30 days, if you haven't renewed, you are now applying like you are a new facility, which really means nothing. Like there's no different process for a new application other than, inspection, that sort of thing, which that people get anyway, than a renewal process. And like, are there any communities that do something stronger? Like you haven't renewed in 30 days after warning, you've now effectively lost your license and we can reduce the cap.
Yes, there are towns that do that. Usually they, so I'm trying to think ones that I've worked with recently. So I know that one that I worked with recently had 60 days for renewal. So they had a 6-day renewal time, but then it was like if you hadn't renewed, you've lost it. Um, but you can do that. You can, if you're treating them like a new applicant doesn't have a permit available to them. That one's been retired. If you have a reducing cap, so you could do it that way. I would just recommend making sure that you are doing really good outreach leading up to that. Because the point, the goal is compliance, not punishment. And you know, as much as we don't like it, we wish that they were making their money other places. A lot of these are smaller businesses, so you want to at least give them the opportunity to renew. But yeah, I mean, there are towns that do that, and they are very strict, and they do follow up to make sure that people are renewing. But if somebody hasn't renewed, then they will pull the license.
I'm tempted to want to add some more strength because everybody gets notified 30 days prior to expiration. Our new process with our online permitting is very simple. I mean, outside of, uploading this year's, revenue documents and signing the checklist, it's a no-brainer and it's there for them. So,
Hmm.
we have, those 30 days. And then, in our regs, we have the 30 days past that date. So that's, I guess, you've been notified for 30 days and now you've expired and you get 30 more days. And in the meantime, we've sent out multiple certified mail receipts that certified mail notices that you are now in violation and it's time to pay. And we don't have a lot of them, but it just drives me nuts that we have to constantly do that and make sure that people. And so I feel like somehow we need something with a little more teeth, even if it's after the 30 days post expiration, that if they want to get it back, part of the process of is to sit in front of the board and tell us why haven't you paid? You've had every opportunity for 60 full days.
I think,
I can definitely help with some language. Oh, sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm not opposed to that at all. I just think that we have to do a really good educational outreach to those particular businesses who are potentially like, to be able to say to them, if this is not done, like these are the consequences, like leading up even before that renewal notice, I would be really cautious. Like I said, I'm not opposed to that. Because I want to make your lives easier as well. But to ensure that the businesses know that this is a potential outcome of that and that it's not just applying for it again, because that we do have the reducing cap. It's the loss of it entirely. And yeah.
How many
The way
people
that
are,
it's worked-
so I'm wondering from like the data perspective, how many people are actually late and how many people have gone over?
this year, almost everybody was late. Maybe, okay,
Out of all 19 stores?
14.
14, sorry.
Yes. So there's always a mixture for all of our permits. There's a mixture of why you might be late. You might be late because you've not applied. You might be late because you've applied and the collector's office has said you owe a water bill, you owe this, and you can't continue with the process until you do that. You might be late because you've got past that, you were approved, and you just never logged back on and paid. So we had I think that after October 1st, so the last day of September expires. I want to say 2 of those people, or maybe 1, just never applied. The rest had started the process. That's not anything new for kind of any permits that we have, which is always everybody knows it expires on a certain day, and we do a lot of, when we get to the point where Alex has an envelope in her hand and she walks to your business in front of the door, that's that's when we mean business. Everybody's all set right now, thankfully, but it's just one of these things every year. It's November now. We did go past the 30 days, but we got everybody that anybody who was straggling on that first day of November, we got them all settled. But it takes work,
We appreciate your hard work. And we also appreciate that, like, there's a real difference between I never did anything and like I have this outstanding bill that I'm working through to be able to move through the process, right? So,
and we have late fees. So for every week that you're late, you have a late fee. And the way that we've written it in about the renewal process, to me, doesn't really strike me as strong enough to just say like, oh, you don't have a permit anymore, we'll reduce the cap. But if that's something we really think we want to do, I feel like it has to be written out. And they all have copies of our rules, and they know where they can get them if they've misplaced them. So everybody knows the dates that expires. It's in our regulations. I mean, and these are issues. It's not just tobacco. I mean, it's in our other, food service, same thing, except we have, about 5 times more permits, or more, way more than 5 times more permits in that category.
I
But
can just put something in that'll make it clear. I mean, I can work with you to do that. I would say, I mean, they're selling a dangerous product, so it's not crazy to say that they need to be responsible business owners.
I mean, having an eclair, I don't know, 10 eclairs a day every day might be bad for you as well, but they still get late fees too. Yeah.
well, they also know they're not supposed to sell to minors, and we've seen how that has turned out.
And we have other bylaws in the town that, allow us to pull other permits if you are not in compliance with other ones. So, whether it's our food service, or if it's, we can always talk to, say, the liquor commission or the license commission about liquor licenses. So other things can be suspended or pulled, and we can hold that over people, but that's a lot to have to go through. Oops. Am I also frozen?
Just
Okay.
Christine,
Nope.
she's frozen, but she's trying
You're
to.
not. No,
Yeah.
that happened to me earlier too, and I popped back on.
I think
On our
something's
mic.
going on in East Long Meadow, because I was having trouble at the end of the day also at work with the Wi-Fi, trying to set the laptop up.
Yeah, I'm on my phone now while I don't know what's happening with Zoom. So
It's still a good signal. Anyway, so that's something we can, no, thought we lost Lisa for a second. Just everything shifted. I guess that's something we can add to the wish list.
So I think
look
from
at
now
it.
we just kind of update it, edit it, and then we'll come back.
mhm.
I have a
But-
hard stop at 7 tonight, guys. I'm sorry. I just
Okay.
realized it's already
Okay.
6:47.
Okay. Well, if we don't have anything else for Lisa, I can get through the stuff I really want to talk to you guys in.
I was good
Thursday.
talking to you guys.
Thanks, Lisa.
I
Thank you.
totally was like, oh my gosh, it's already 6:47.
Oh, she really just jumped off. No business, no, like she's got her business set. I like it.
All right,
I'm
Tim,
so
you
glad
got,
she was able to come on, especially after the drama we had with our Zoom link last time. And anyway,
Tim, you are good. We got 10
Okay.
minutes.
so the next thing that's up on there is public health excellence shared service arrangement discussion. So over the last maybe year and a half, I have met with the health directors from Agawam, West Springfield, and Westfield, as we're the only well, outside of Springfield, who's too large, and they're also kind of not there. I can't think of what the name of the city is. There's certain designation that doesn't really allow them to do this. We're the only communities that aren't part of a shared service arrangement. And right now, we had met with other shared service arrangements about possibly kind of connecting onto them. And the state has said that at the moment, they're not allowing other shared service arrangements to take on additional communities. And that the only way forward is really to start our own shared service arrangement. And over the last year, while they've said these sort of things, most of us of the four really reluctantly were like, we want someone else to step up and be the host community for a shared service arrangement. And it looks like the only community that would possibly be able to do that is ours. And so just a little side on what the shared service arrangements entail. A community would be given a grant to basically boost services within their community to make sure that we are able to uphold the Blueprint for Public Health, which has workforce standards for every position in a health department and for a health department as a whole. The majority of health departments in the state of Massachusetts cannot, the way that they are run, work up to that blueprint. And so these grants help those communities do that. And when they say shared service, it doesn't mean that East Long Meadow will be providing inspectional services to Agawam, whatever, or West Springfield will be providing nurses. It's something outside of what we do right now that we're sharing. So we might share a community health worker or share a social worker, share someone to help with health promotions. We could share a backup health inspector to help when things are busy, that sort of thing. But it's not taking the resources that the towns currently have and spreading them around. It's other resources. And they just contacted us a week and a half ago from the state and let us know that they are opening up a temporary procurement for the remainder of the fiscal year, and that new shared service agreements would be guaranteed to get that if they apply. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at it and look at the application, see if the kind of suits our needs. And it looks like East Long Meadow is going to apply because the other communities aren't really poised for that right now, with a lot of new employees heading on the helm or employees that are tending to retire in the next year. Which also would be, it's such a, we're gonna lose so much great experience when that happens, because West Springfield's health director is one of our she is she's been a mentor to me. I will be very sad when she's gone from our county. So that's some of the things that we've been talking about. So there'll be sort of more to come. When it comes to the Board of Health, uh, we eventually a shared services arrangement will have, they have a name for it. It's like a subcommittee. And there will be a member from each of the Board of Healths of each of the community asked to be on it. So hopefully there would be nobody that's not amenable to that idea. I think they might, from the most part, it seems like this is something that only meets like quarterly. And it's just because it's 4 separate governments, we would need to kind of align on that to make sure that things are, okay. I guess there's a good sense of what those regulations are and how they apply across the board, and also just to kind of have open communication so that one town isn't taking the burden of it. But we have a pretty strong squad between the 4 communities as it is, and regardless of who ends up being the host community, I know that they would, share the burden of the application process and whatnot. And then basically for this first half a year, the grant would cover a shared services coordinator that might just be a part-time person, so that um, the burden of doing like a needs assessment and coming up with a budget and all those things wouldn't be on our staff or the staff of the host community that decides for it. It would be the shared service coordinator that would be doing it for all of us, which is great. Some of the pluses that if we do become the host community are we get a 15% cut of the amount of money, just goes straight back into the community chosen to be either the general fund, or if the town manager and town council agrees, it could go to health department budget as well. So that would be the plus there, besides having all this fun free service. Having Alex and Chris and myself go to the top of the list every time there's a training, because now we have to wait because we're not part of shared service agreements. And it would also pay for things like licensure and other things like that. There's a long list. I have. It is the only state grant where they actually give you a list of allowable expenses. Everyone else says, tell us what you want to do. So that's a kind of a nice, that's a nice change of pace from what we've had to experience in the past. So that's a lot of information I know to put out more. I can, when the RFP opens, I can send out more information to everybody just so they know what we're in for. But while there'll be a little bit of work getting the application out in the beginning, once we're rolling and we have a shared service coordinator who'd be attending these meetings, I think that it's definitely going to be worth that little bit of effort that we put in the beginning to kind of get stuff rolling. And then we can decide, with our needs assessment, what do we think we need in the community beyond what we can already provide. So I think it'd be cool. And I know, especially when it comes to things like health promotion, we don't have time over our regular schedule to going out there and driving home the things we really, really want to drive home outside of, Facebook and, getting kind of the word out. So it would be nice to be able to have something like that in the community to get that out. Like getting people vaccinated for Tdap out there so we can stop having babies with pertussis. Anyway, questions, concerns? And I've been talking to our town manager and deputy town manager, and they're definitely, while, they want to make sure that we don't take on anything that we can't take on and handle, they're supportive of this. I know in the past, it was a different, shared service arrangement. It was not the same program and the same grant. And that it wasn't loved by all. It's very different. It's a very different experience and a very different grant and a very different arrangement than what was proposed about 4 or 5 years ago.
All right, Tammy, any other highlights in the last minute or two?
Last minute, I'll just go over, okay, mattress disposal fee. We voted on it, but they've come to this agreement that they're only going to adopt fee changes once a year, and that is when they approve the town budget. So we're just gonna eat that cost until the budget has been approved, and then the fees will change. It's really, yeah, it is what it is. Liz is actually now on the MRF advisory board, which is fantastic, our municipal recycling facility, especially because we will be entering in a new 5-year extension of our contract with them. And so it's nice to have somebody on the inside to direct kind of the policies that are going on over the MRF, being kind of our direct liaison, especially if there's, increases in things and whether or not there's changes in how we recycle. So that's really cool. And that covers the 7 Hampden County towns that are in that area, catchment area. Let's see. We are finally bringing back hazardous waste day. It's going to be on December, or no, sorry, I skipped ahead, July 19th this year. So there'll be more to come. There's a Fix It clinic on December 6th. If you go to our Facebook page, there's a sign up. Oh, big thing. We now have a Sharps kiosk in Town Hall. So you don't have to go and bring your Sharps to the health department. If you don't want to, you can always come and say hi. And we love it because you can also come and pick up some COVID kits that we still have plenty of those left. But if you want a little more privacy, we've got the kiosk. It is in the foyer in Town Hall that kind of faces the Rotary, so it's nice and private if you don't want to talk to anybody. And the health department is part of an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit by right committee because of the governor's change to those rules, and now they're allowing accessory dwelling units are now a right, so we need to kind of get ahead of that and put in, and this would be mother-in-law apartments, like little extra houses on your property for rental. So we're kind of putting that together, and there's a lot of areas where our health department regulations are Title V, our septic and housing kind of intersect. So we're working on that, and I think we have to make that votes by February. And there is a big communications audit that the town received a grant to do. You might have received an email if you have an employee email, but there's also, they're doing it at the community level as well. There are links to that up on our Facebook page. I mean, it's basically looking at how communication flows within the municipality and within the community to kind of to figure out a plan to better get information out to people. And this could be all forms of communication, not the meetings that we have, email, snail mail, you name it. So if people see that, please take that survey. And I think everything else
All right.
It's good.
Respect Katie's time here. Do we all have time to look at a meeting date, or do you want to do that? It's always easier to do it in person.
I can do that really quick. I just texted my other meeting. I'll be a few minutes late, so.
Okay.
Oh, and Chris, I'll just do hers quickly. We've had a lot of we had 3 COVID/flu clinics in the month of October. They were all mostly very well attended. We're trying to find ways to get out the information about vaccine. And Chris is now certified Stop the Bleed trainer, so she'll be doing some Stop the Bleed and also some hands-only CPR. And that was everything on my list.
You did great.
And so Tammy, just as a reminder, because I'm starting to look at dates, you said we cannot do Mondays or Tuesdays anymore?
Yeah, and some Wednesdays. So honestly, the Thursday is the best day of the week for the Zoom.
So,
I have classes on Wednesday, but I could
No, that's fine. I can do Thursday is fine, but I just can't do the 5th is obviously too soon. The 12th I cannot do. The 19th I can make work, and then the 26th is the day after Christmas. So
I can't do the 19th.
I mean,
Do we want to look at January?
I was gonna say, do we want to look at early
Can
January?
can we just, yeah, just because it's a hectic month with
So
December
busy.
and the holidays and
Yep.
Yep.
do you want to do like the 16th of January or do sooner? Because the 2nd again is the day after New Year's.
I'm okay with the 16th.
Yeah, any of the Thursdays in January are fine for me right
Yeah,
now.
16th works really good for me.
Key.
I'll make it so. It's ours.
And then, so
Better-
that way, hopefully we'll have plenty of time to get all the information from the, what you call it? The Tobacco Commission.
Perfect.
Yeah,
we'll
and
be able
Tammy,
to
if we
do it.
can get that as soon as we can get it, so that we have some time to review it, would be really helpful, so that we can go through the three of us and mark up and put our questions in. Because that sounds like a meeting where we're gonna be doing a lot of, like going through the document word by word, line by
So,
line.
Line
yeah,
by
Maybe
line.
we should have our agenda be very small.
Mhm,
Probably
I'll
going to
wait
take
on
up the
other
bulk of the
stuff.
time.
mhm.
I mean, all of
Oh,
a sudden
we
I
will
looked
have-
at my clock and I was like, it's already been 47 minutes and we've been talking about this a lot.
Yeah,
Lisa, she's thorough. She can talk about it. Thing.
Well, that was great. I
It was
felt like it
awesome.
answered all my questions, which was
Very
great.
informative. Yeah.
What I'll do is go through the checklist like we did the
Yep.
last time.
yes.
Yep.
And compare it to what we currently have.
Good.
So that kind of helps out that. And then hopefully we'll also get the language about the nicotine pouches that
Okay.
Yeah.
Mitch said.
And I know you have to get it out publicly, but like, if we can have a couple of days to review it before the meeting would be really, really helpful.
Well,
Or like-
so
can we work
people don't have-
async?
if we're gonna have a review, we just have to have that. We just have to put whatever we reviewed in our minute meeting.
Okay.
So that's
Right, so it can be done
would-
asynchronously too, like beforehand. So if you send it to us,
We
You know-
can start reading and making notes and stuff like that
right,
independently. We can't have a discussion, but we can independently make notes.
correct.
Okay.
But that's why I'm saying it'd be really helpful to give us more than 24 hours to look at that one.
Oh no! So this would be something that we'd be working on now, and then
Right,
Okay.
and then we could get it as soon as
Perfect.
possible, because then we can then make those.
because and also I mean, there's no guarantee that once you've gone through all this and we're looking at it that at that January meeting that whatever it is we're looking at is our final.
No, of
Just-
course, but
No.
at least we can at
Yeah,
least
you
make
might
some
wanna-
headway with it.
Yeah, I don't want to be looking at it for the first time in the meeting.
Right.
No. But I mean, it might not. It might raise more questions.
Right.
So
Sure.
it's an ongoing process.
Okay, cool.
All right, somebody have a,
I
Motion-
motion to adjourn the meeting.
I
will
second
sec-
it.
Great, Rebecca can second,
Okay.
and I will do the roll call vote. Christine Johnston, aye. Katie Jobbins.
Aye.
Rebecca Torsha.
Aye.
All right, ladies, have a
right.
lovely holiday. Happy
Yes, take
Thanksgiving.
care.
Yeah.
Right, bye,
All right.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.